Hi folks, welcome to your latest MWIS Outlook that's updated on Tuesday the 26th of January. It's an ever familiar battle of the air masses as we go through the middle of this week, and the upshot of that is the likelihood of some further extensive snowfalls focused around the Pennines and the south of Scotland as we head into Thursday. Colder air then returns for all of us as we head into the weekend. It's still a generally unsettled story even onwards into next week, with frequent areas of low pressure coming in off the Atlantic, so rain or snow remaining in the forecast further ahead. Overall, Scottish high tops rarely getting above freezing point in the foreseeable forecast. Let's have a look at those freezing levels. This nice piece of modern art tells that story quite well. It's the height of 0 Celsius in metres. The scale is on the bottom of the chart. We're looking for the purples then in terms of those colder temperatures. This is early on Wednesday, and the lowest freezing level focused across the Highlands, terrain frozen to lower slopes in many places. A little bit milder air across the South Pennines and Wales, where it's above freezing to the high tops. If we just roll the story on through Wednesday daytime, the chillier air tries to get back in across the borders, the Cheviots, into the Pennines as well, and it's that boundary line which is the real story for snowfall as we head onwards into the early hours of Thursday, where that cold air lies in place to the northeast of Britain and across Scotland. The mild air tries to get in from the southwest. The front that is the boundary of that produces the precipitation, and as it runs into that cold air, that's the scope for a sustained period of snow across the Pennines, the Lakeland Fells, and across the south of Scotland, maybe even into the Highlands as well at this stage. At the very lowest levels, a bit more like rain or sleet, but it could well fall as snow above 200-300 metres for a good many hours, even onwards into Thursday daytime. Bit of a pushback then of the milder air just trying to get back in from the southwest. Some uncertainty how far into the Pennines the milder air gets through the day on Thursday. For the Peak District and for Wales particularly, it's likely to be above freezing, so it's a wet picture in this part of the world. If we just roll that story further forwards into Friday, the milder air still hanging around across Wales and the South Pennines as we go through the night. By the time we get to Friday daytime, though, eventually that colder air will get dragged back southwards, maybe increasingly so through the day. So rain and drizzle that's across the Pennines for part of the day has the likelihood of going back to snow, particularly the further north you are across the Pennines later on Friday. And that colder air then with freezing temperatures into the valleys and the glens extensive as we go into Saturday. So a cold day as we go through Saturday daytime, maybe the value lifting above freezing to 500-600 metres across England and Wales. Let's see how that looks on the Synoptic charts. This is for Wednesday, and we're rather stuck between weather systems at this point in time. We have areas of high pressure lying north and south, low pressure areas to the west and the east, and we're rather stuck in the middle with not a lot going on. A westerly flow that's around in the morning. The strong breeze across the Pennines will tend to ease down. The remnants of a front that's been around during today, Tuesday, still producing areas of dampness, some snow flurries around the borders, the Cheviots and the North Pennines, bits of drizzly rain for the Peak District and across into Wales. Not amounting to much, but a murky day, a damp atmosphere that is just rather stuck in place, nowhere for it to go. The next warm front that comes in from the southwest is the next sort of push of milder air, that bringing some heavier rain by the time we get into Wednesday evening and night across Wales. In the colder air mass that still exists across the Highlands, still a bit of a murky picture, some snow flurries here and there, not coming to a great deal. The best of some sunshine likely just to develop across the northwest Highlands through the day, where it should stay dry. Now those fronts from the southwest push their way in as we go overnight and into Thursday, and that's that real battleground zone then between the cold air to the north and the mild air to the south, and that prospect for extensive snowfall along that front from the southwest Highlands into the Pennine areas. Behind that, damp, murky conditions, temperatures lifting above freezing across the Peak District and South Pennines. It's a relatively mild and murky day across Wales. Further north, snow flurries into the central parts of the Highlands, maybe as far north as, say, Loch Harbour, but the further north you go, it may amount to next to nothing, and a generally dry day across the northern portions of the Highlands. The wind speed's quite variable. There could be a rather gusty easterly wind just around the northern side of that front, around the southern half of the Highlands. Light winds around the Pennines, but the risk of a brisk westerly wind across Wales. We do like to have a look at the vertical profile, this showing you the atmosphere in 3D essentially, just to give you a feel for what's going on out there. This is for Thursday as a snapshot, this for the Central Highlands, and it shows what we call an isothermal situation where there's very little temperature fall with height. The 0 Celsius line is diagonally up this chart, just to complicate things maybe, but the emphasis is that there's very little temperature drop with height. It's near or maybe just above freezing point at the lowest hill slopes. If you were to climb up onto the highest tops, you'd only lose maybe a degree or so, compared to sometimes where you would lose several degrees with increasing height. The red and the blue line, the temperature and the moisture content, very much glued together, suggesting that it's a saturated lower atmosphere. The hills clagged in extensive fog then. And that murkiness is likely to be around into Friday as well. Uncertainty exactly where the remnants of fronts lie. There's maybe not too much to them, but in some places a persistently damp day once again, and some snow flurries to the northern side of the front in the cold air, some rain and some drizzle to the southern side of these fronts in the milder air, and maybe something just generally persistently wet into the Welsh mountains. Further north across the Highlands you may find some brightness, some banks of cloud at various levels likely to be around, best of some breaks and some sunshine toward the western coast, with the easterly wind just allowing that cloud to break up a little bit. Now, low pressure systems sort of break apart a bit as we go into the weekend, one low dragging southwards, the next one way out over the Atlantic, and higher pressure to the north just begins to exert some influence, so likely to be a dry day for many, some brightness, some sunshine around, some stubborn banks of cloud and fog, maybe focused more on eastern regions, the general drift coming around off the North Sea. The colder air that has been drawn in across all regions by this stage, so a chilly day, a hard frost likely, particularly across the Highlands where skies were clear overnight into Saturday morning, and that terrain staying largely frozen to many lower slopes. Bit of thawing in any sunshine. Light winds for many, just watch that easterly wind though across the hills of England and Wales, could be rather gusty. Things change again by the time we get into Sunday. Difficulty with detail, but the likelihood is that low pressure over the Atlantic starts to push back in again, and we've got some fronts producing the risk of some further snow coming in on its leading edge, turning milder again across Wales, and the wind strengthening by this time. We just need to watch how soon this change to more unsettled weather comes in again over the weekend. I think for the early part of next week, a very familiar tale still early on, the battle of milder and colder air masses, some further frequent precipitation coming in, a mixture of rain and snow, Scotland in particular staying in the colder air. General thinking further ahead, this chart for the week as a whole through to the 8th of February, maybe just a suggestion that higher pressure to the north begins to get in a little bit more and maybe just allows things to be quieter on balance. So we go into maybe drier conditions a bit more widely as we go further forwards. It may just take a bit of time to get there. I think some transition maybe just developing through that first week of February if that high can begin to build. Frosty conditions would be around with that, and maybe still just staying in a generally cold air mass, so I don't see at the moment any imminent push of much milder air. It should keep those frozen conditions going across the Scottish mountains at least for a good while yet. We'll keep you up to date on all those developments. Stay safe and stay local. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.